Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk More on Monday. As always, I'm your podcast host, Chloe, and we are continuing our series where we sit down and talk about topics that are important to the More team as we are in between content for our issues. So, if you have been following us for a while, you know that we came out with issue 10, Influence, in the spring. We were very excited about that. We got to talk about what influence means, and coming up in the fall, we'll be coming out with issue 11. So stay tuned on what that's going to look like. But in the interim, we just get to talk about things that matter to us. So we've done a great series over the summer about advocacy, inclusion, disability rights, healing from generational trauma, storytelling, and marketing. We like to cover a wide variety of topics here on the show. But today we're doing something a little different, but still very interesting, very important. We are talking about what dehumanization in policy really means. And we've got a special guest today. So, welcome to the podcast, Maaria Mozaffar. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you, Chloe. I'm happy to be here.
So, I'm going to turn the mic over to you and have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in the world of policy.
Thank you. First of all, let me thank you for talking about things that are important. So I heard you say all the things you discussed. So I'm so appreciative for you to be doing that. So I wear a lot of different hats, but I'm going to try to summarize. For the last, I would say 15 years, actually, I could range it, expand it. I have been writing legislations. And I've been writing legislations at the state and the federal level about things that I care about.
Mhm.
I'm an attorney. I'm not an elected official, but like you, I have a lot of interests in things and I would like things to change. And instead of waiting for other people to change them, I have learned that you have to change them yourself. So I do that. And so I advocate on many different issues. And I'm an author, I'm a triathlete, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. Um, and I love to take walks and I love to work out and I love really good salads. So, yeah.
Amazing. You do wear a lot of hats. But yeah, I mean, what you do is definitely very near and dear to our hearts in terms of advocating for things that you care about and trying to get them to change. Um, and we talked a lot this summer, especially about disabilities rights and advocacy on the Medicaid side. And I'm sure you've encountered a little bit of that as well. But we're really here today to talk about dehumanization. So tell me in your own words what that really means to you.
So it's all connected, Chloe. Dehumanization is when we implement a policy that affects individuals in a manner that is one that makes them feel less human.
Mm.
In fact, you're able to execute these policies and turn a blind eye on what they may be experiencing because of that policy. I believe it goes beyond legalities. It's not about who's right and wrong or breaking the law. It's about how you do what you do. And I think whatever policies you have, even if you're taking or addressing issues and taking steps to address issues where someone has broken the law, the way you teach them, the way you treat them, even in that scenario, um, could be dehumanizing. And I believe as humans, we do not have a right, no matter who we are, to treat people less than human or less than ourselves.
Mhm.
And people find themselves in different circumstances for different reasons in their life.
Yeah,
So we have to respect that. And if we don't understand the basic dignity of humanity, then we've stripped our humanity.
yeah. I think you raise an interesting point. You know, when I was first thinking about this topic, I was thinking about minority communities and women, but it also extends to people who become homeless, right? Or people who lose their employment or find themselves on disability or any number of labels that can be put on you for whatever reason that can fall into this realm of getting dehumanized too.
Absolutely. I mean, dehumanization has no category, right? It's not, and I'm very glad that you said that your thought expanded because it's very easy to politicize or to put it in a specific category or assume that it's just a certain community's
Right.
topic. It's not. It's everybody. Everybody can be treated less human based on the policies that we execute. And specifically because you said your audience was talking about disability rights, I remember somebody said something so interesting to me, a disability advocate, and they said, look, the measures that we put into place to help individuals with disabilities, they're not to be seen as things for people with disabilities. It's for people like you who are not disabled yet. And I found that so incredibly powerful, right? So if we look at it from that lens, we look at everyone else's issues as our own, and that we could find ourselves in those positions, and we should not assume that we would not in any way.
Right. That's so true because anything can happen and you can suddenly find yourself, you've been in an accident, you've been disabled, you've lost your job, and these things that never applied to you before suddenly do. So now it's like, it becomes relevant to your life. You find yourself caring, and it's like, what would have happened though if, 10 years ago you decided that it was your cause as well? Like, would we be in a better place?
Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that kind of goes into which cause is your cause. And dehumanization is that all encompassing category where you are recognizing that another human should be treated with dignity and should be dealt with mercy and compassion, no matter what their concern or their issue or their situation is. And that's the equalizing factor, correct? That we're all human.
Right. So, what are some examples? How have you seen policy be dehumanizing in the last few months or years? What are some concrete examples of this happening?
So I would say it's a wide range from domestic and foreign policy issues. Okay, things that we have taken for granted. So um, I know that you reside in the Midwest, but across the country there are food deserts that exist where children don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
And those kids, when they go to school, they do not have the same experience as far as sitting down in a classroom and learning, right? And those are the same areas where you have high levels of hypertension and diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. And so not having access to fresh food is huge. The fact that there are individuals that are incarcerated and don't have access to chaplaincy in their most vulnerable times, and no matter what they have done, when they are behind bars and they are able to um, think and reflect and serve time, that is the time when you need the most spiritual awakening. So for them not to have access to chaplaincy, for kids that are bullied in school, that are bullied because of their faith or their race or their identity, and the administration tells them, oh, just don't pass each other in the hallway, that is a scarring experience for that victim. Why can't that victim turn out to not be a victim by addressing the bully in a mandated mediation within the administration, in which the bully learns a lesson about social norms? These are all policies that could be dehumanizing, but we can have an impact on them by humanizing them. And the examples that I gave are some of the policies that I've worked on. So even the most recent ones, right? And I don't want to politicize the issue, because politicizing the issue is so easy to do, right? Then we all go into our echo chambers and it's
Absolutely.
this right, and then we don't have to talk to each other because we're on this side and you're on that side. But I will tell you, when I watch the videos of individuals being picked up by ICE during the ICE raids, this is what I see. I see a father, and I've seen this. I've seen a father sit in a car, dropping their child off to Montessori, and that young 3-year-old sitting in the back seat. That has nothing to do with the situation, regardless of the issue of that father, right? And so once you break that glass window and drag him out, what message have you told that 3-year-old girl? So that's a human aspect. I don't care what race, religion, or culture you come from. You know that a 3-year-old girl, their dads are usually, would want their dads to be their Superman, right? So for you to create that dynamic is dehumanizing, right? So I think things like that are very critically important. I think starving children for war is critically important to address. I don't think a child across the globe feels pain or hunger in any other way than any other child within our zip code. And
Yeah.
that's the humanizing factor. And I think it's very important for us to tap into that when we're executing policy, when we're writing policy, when we're talking about what we're going to do that's not going to cross the line. Right.
Right.
And so, and I will say that there are ways that policies are written to dehumanize as well, and for us to be recognizing of that and clear of that is very critical.
Yeah. And it raises another point, right? Like with the ICE raids, you see people that say, well, I thought this was a good idea until my mom got taken. And now I've changed my mind about it. And it's like, again, like you don't care about it until it affects you. But if your child were starving, does it matter where you live, if it's here or if it's, in the Gaza Strip? Like it should matter to you. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. And Chloe, the thing is this, like exactly what you're saying is like we can take the position of it's not going to matter till it affects us. We can take that position, but privilege in that sense is very blinding. It's
mhm.
very blinding and it's a false comfort, no matter what your privilege is, even if you talk about disability rights, correct? So, isn't it better to take the position that you will not pass the buck when you see something happening to somebody else that disturbs you?
Yeah.
How about that? We are human, so we know we get disturbed. We know that we have an emotional response to a child crying, a child starving, a human, a woman being humiliated in
Mhm.
public. We have an emotional response. Why are we pretending or pushing that down, right? And stripping our humanity to be able to sit in a political camp? We've
Right.
just basically shut down our most powerful human power that makes us smarter and more effective, and that's empathy.
Yeah. Yeah. And deciding what it is that we're really responsible for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I would love to hear more about your work, how you are working with policy to right these wrongs.
Yeah. So I think what's fascinating and exciting about my experience and my learnings is that I'm not an elected official. And you don't have to be an attorney to do what I do, and you don't have to be an elected official. What you do need to do is be able to identify that you're going to commit yourself and not pass the buck. And what I basically identify are issues that I care deeply about
Mhm.
that disturb me, like disturb many people. And I find ways that I can address and solve the issue and speak to legislators, find elected officials that agree with me,
Mhm.
find advocacy groups that want to take that on, find communities where it's very clear that this is an issue, and then align those three levels, right? So you have the community that's affected, or the zip code that's affected, or the individual that's affected. You have the elected officials that can actually put paper to pen and a
Right.
vote and get it passed, right? So you have that. And you have advocacy groups that also are wanting people to have help, and are out there on the front lines. And, I was asked this question actually in another interview, and they said, how do you find your people? How does one find their people? And I will tell you, every community has a group of sincere people that show up to these things and read more than other people read, choose not to be distracted,
Mhm.
go to meetings. When they see something on social media that disturbs them, it bothers them, and they share it. These are sincere individuals. And there's also sincere individuals when you go to certain meetings, they'll ask the same questions, they'll raise your hand, and everybody rolls their eyes. They're like, oh, here we go again. But I promise you, those people are gems. Those people are gems. They are looking at the big landscape of things that are distracting them, and they've decided to be here, and they've decided to speak and study and share their words and try to engage with them,
Yeah.
learn the truth about issues, see how you can help. This whole message that we are given, that people are given, that you're powerless, is such a false notion.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of people deciding that they care enough to do something about it. I mean, I hate to quote Lorax, but it really is that simple. It really is.
When you're right, you're right.
It really is.
And something that I've noticed is just attending protests for various issues in the last year. there has been tabling and groups that show up because they're also passionate about the issue, or they're running a food drive or something. And I've met some amazing people just because they knew to show up in that space too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put yourself out there in that way, I think you're inevitably going to find some community of people that agree with you and have some kind of focus of how can we change things? How can we get things done?
Absolutely. And also, I think the desire to study and learn is critical, right? Because we can all go to protests and we can be part of things. We love that passion and we love that energy and it inspires us. And merging that with facts, statistics, knowledge is critical
Yeah.
because it will make you confident and comfortable knowing that you're protesting the right things for the right reason. And you won't be duped. You won't be duped. And
Yeah.
so, and what I mean you won't be duped is that there's always individuals and narratives and false narratives, right? That are out there about communities and issues. So it's very critical for us to have independent media and learn different things
Yeah.
and just not pass the buck.
Yeah. And not read only one source of media.
Yeah, break your echo chamber. Break
Yes.
your echo chamber in every way. You know, I would say it's so easy for us to think that people that oppose us on certain issues, political issues, legislative issues, have got it all wrong and that they come from a certain demographic and a certain mindset. And I will tell you, I've learned that that's not the case at all. And I believe that's not the case at all. I believe you can always break the echo chamber because you have this humanizing factor that connects you.
Yeah.
And so that's what you have to tap into. You know, you don't have to tap into always like this compelling argument, but it helps. But that human factor is huge, right? Because you all have families, you all have dinner tables that you miss people when someone's not there. You all have individuals and elders that got sick that weren't able to have coverage, right, for healthcare. You have all of these issues.
Right.
So tap into that as much as you can to break that echo chamber.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, thank you so much, Maaria, for sharing. Before we go, if our listeners want to engage with you, how can they find you?
So they can go to my website, mariamozaffar.com, and I guess you want me to spell it out for you?
We'll put it in the show notes.
Okay,
So
perfect.
please check
And
that
my
out.
Instagram. Yeah, my Instagram should be on there too. So my Instagram, I put some stuff on there. I will say about my Instagram, I'm very intentional about putting quality over quantity. So I don't want to be part of a peanut gallery. I want to be able to make use of your time. So if you're spending some time with me, if you're taking 30 seconds or a minute to look at my stuff, I want it to be valuable to you and not distract you from your own life. So yeah, you can visit me there.
That is a great intention to set for social media. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and talking about policy. If you guys are interested in what we're talking about, please make sure to head over to our Patreon. We're going to dig deeper about some of this stuff and talk about why it's so important on a base level to continue to advocate. So make sure to join us over there. You are supporting our mission of making opportunities reachable for everyone. But thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for joining us, Maaria.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week when we talk more on Monday. Bye, guys.